What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Montana Method podcast. One more time, your author of the Montana Method, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., returning again for another fantastic episode of my show. Thank you very much. Tooting my own horn. Whoop, whoop. All right. So here we go with a very good episode. A great friend of mine. I'm very honored to have her on the podcast, taking over Hollywood one day at a time. You might know her from fantastic shows like Young Rock, Gravesend. She's been doing fantastic things, absolutely dominating Hollywood. We're going to get into what she's been up to, what's up, what's next in her career, and how far she's going to take this Hollywood thing. So here we go. Arlyn Broche, please welcome her.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.
Hi, Nelson. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Of course. Honored to have you in my space. How's your day? How's it going?
Good. It's good. Just a lot of stuff going on in my house at home currently. I'm in the process of selling my house, so it's been very eventful to say the least.
All righty. How's real estate? It doesn't look like it's slowed down, but I wouldn't know. I'm not in the market for a house, but Florida looks like it's always booming no matter what.
I'm noticing that we're definitely in a seller's market now, and a lot of activity, which is great. Very grateful for that. And the issue I am having is finding another property to go to, because since it is a seller's market, on the flip side, when you buy, it becomes a challenge. Let me just give you over in the air. Okay. But yeah. Miami is definitely the place to be, though. I love it. It's my hometown.
Definitely, yeah. I'm not leaving. That's for sure. I know a lot of us are leaving, unfortunately, like a lot of natives, not people who grew up here like you and me, and they're taking off because, it's getting expensive or whatnot, but I can't live anywhere else. I really can't.
I love it. I love Miami.
Yeah, of course, right? Like what other places like this? There's no other place like this on the planet, I couldn't live anywhere if I tried. It's just, and Miami's in my blood, it's in my bones. It's like my DNA.
Yeah. It's culture. Absolutely. I love Miami.
For sure. And let me tell you, it's a great segue. That's why I love what you're doing, because I feel Miami and we're so under, I want to use the right vocabulary. We're like under showcased is what I want to say. You know what I mean? The real Miami native, like the Miami blood, the person who grew up here with our culture and our values and knows what we're about. It's hard to find somebody in that big stage. There's always that one outlier, like if we're talking like a pit bull or something like that. But somebody, for example, in acting, that's why it's so cool to see you do well and be on these primetime shows, because obviously you're my friend and I know you personally. That's awesome. But it's like, oh, it's one of us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Cuban, Miami native, born and raised. I absolutely agree with you. I know exactly what you're saying. I feel we had so many TV shows back, a couple years ago when we had Ballers, Bloodline, different shows, and Burn Notice. And a lot of them went because of the incentives. And so hopefully we're going to be getting more productions into South Florida. And because honestly, I feel like Miami, like the beaches, the restaurants, the nightlife, everything is just such a vibe. There's an energy to Miami. You can feel it. Like whenever I travel for work or just travel period and I fly back into Miami, just overlooking, the city, it's totally a vibe. So I agree with you. Definitely.
Yeah, it's one of a kind. And to see it transform, even from when I was a kid, I'm turning 31 this week, and it's crazy.
Really? 31?
Yeah, 31.
Well, happy birthday.
You met me when I was like 19, bro. I was a kid. Yeah, thank you. So it's cool to see the city transform. I remember my parents or my grandparents telling me about Miami when I was a kid. No, que esto no era así, que esto no existía, all that stuff. Now I feel like that person. Like I'm gonna be telling my kids one day, bro, you don't understand. When I was a kid, it was nothing.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm seeing your backdrop, and I was watching Scarface on Saturday morning for some reason. And I was like, I was just looking at that backdrop now, thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, I was watching that movie. He did such an amazing job. Al Pacino did
bro.
such an amazing job in that. I thought he was Cuban.
Bro, I say that all the time. That's why I people find it strange that I get so much inspiration from Scarface, and I try to tell people, okay, let's put Tony Montana to the side for a second. Name another Cuban American fictional character that's impacted the world like Tony Montana, and you can't. There's not one. That's why it was so inspiring to me as a kid because it was Miami Cuban, like one of us doing it like that. And even though later I grew up and I found out it was Al Pacino and he's Italian, he's not Cuban, but everything, but still, like he embodied our culture,
Accent,
you know,
mannerisms,
bro.
just the different things that he did. Yeah, yeah,
He,
that's called a phenomenal
he
acting.
nailed it. And
And the funny thing is that my family came on the Mario boat lift. My mom, my dad, my brother, my sister came on the Mario boat lift. I was born and raised in Miami. And so, yeah, when you watch that movie, I mean, I wasn't here when that happened. I wasn't even born, but watching that movie, you just get a real trajectory of what it meant for the original refugees that came in from Cuba
yeah, and I'm
on the
sure
Mario.
you when you watch that film, just like me, you really identify because it's like, wow, that was my mother, that was my father. You know that they sent my mother to the Orange Bowl when she got here,
Yeah.
and she lived on the street like those people. So it's the story of who we are. You know, it's really our genesis and how we evolved. The Tony Montana story is a variation, one of many variations of our story of who we are, and
Amazing story.
you know, it's
And I wouldn't have been born in this country if my parents wouldn't have traveled
exactly same thing for me.
from Cuba on the Mario. So
It's
yeah.
really inspiring because for me, I it just put me on a whole different path. Like that movie, obviously exclude the crazy things he did, like deal thousands of kilos of cocaine and be a gangster and kill people. Like he was ambitious, he was a leader, he knew what he wanted, he dreamt big, he wasn't afraid to go after it. There's
It's an underdog story
right, right, yeah.
with drugs and murder, but
Like if you put that aside,
oh, we got the bitch.
right. And I actually have, it's crazy, a friend of mine, I've become, in my circle and people that know me, I've become so identified with the film that whenever they have something going on where they're doing kind of like a Scarface theme or whatever, they call me. Like I have a buddy of mine named Richie. He's a rapper, he's an artist, and he's doing a song that kind of has to do with the bad guy line. And he called me and I did a part, like I played a part in the song. So that's super.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. And it to me that's flattering and it's super humbling because that's what I want. I want people to realize that's what things have the power to do. Like just depending on your perspective, things can inspire you to that level to be so great at what you do, and you can get that inspiration from anything, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. So let me tell you, aside from, I watched Young Rock, right? And I watched Gravesend.
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah, yeah, of course, bro. Are you kidding me? Of course, I have to watch it. That's like my homies on there. I had to watch it. So I remember you telling me something pretty cool. Just let's go over this. So you told me you auditioned over 700 different times.
Yes. So I've done over 700
Wow.
auditions. Obviously have not booked all of them. I had not booked anything before I booked Gravesend and Young Rock. I had not booked anything for a good year and a half, almost 2 years. And at one point I was like, I was doubting. I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing? Should I even be doing this? And I realized I was like, I don't know. I don't know if this is for me. I
Mm,
mean, I don't know if, because I think I was basing my success on the outcome.
mm,
And I think we talked about this last time, and it's not about the outcome. It's about the journey. It's about the growth. It's about that space between starting, landing whatever, or finishing your project or your goal, and the growth that occurs, the character that's built in that growth, and that's the win.
mm.
Because ultimately there's always going to be the next project, there's always going to be the next work, the next gig, the next whatever. So for me, yeah, of course, you book a gig, or you complete the project, or you do whatever it is you do in your business and your career, and you're like, oh my gosh, milestone, another one in the can, whatever. But um now I'm back to the drawing board. Now I'm like, all right, what's the next step? I got an offer already on another show, a role on another show.
Awesome.
I just got an offer yesterday on a film. So these things are in talks or in works. Now there's a writer's strike in
Mm.
Hollywood. There's a writer's strike. There's also, there's a strike going on with SAG, and different negotiations that are being, you know, talked about, and we're hopefully, we're going to come together and do what's best and find out, find something that will work for the actors and for the writers and for the people that, that are hardworking and deserve the positive outcome. But I want to not get too much into that. I feel like we, as artists or as business people, it's the growth, just kind of like go back into that, the growth. So for me, yeah, nothing is guaranteed. I was never guaranteed, oh, you're going to book a gig or you're going to whatever.
Mm.
So I feel like I've been able to step into my authentic self more and more, not only in auditions or not only on set or in front of the camera, but even like on social media. Like I wake up in the morning and I do my ketones in the kitchen, or I'm, a lot of times, I remember back in the day, even when I started my acting career, it was all about perspective. I was like, oh, I'm going to do it a certain way, or I'm going to, how do you think, do you think they'll like me a certain way? And I'm like, no, I changed my perspective on how I audition.
Mm.
I don't think of it that way. I get the script. I am true to the script, but I tape it based on how would I shoot this? This is my project. How would I shoot it? How would I? So I feel like bringing my authentic self and what I offer to the project or to the, role or whatever it is what's going to book the gig, or is ultimately what's going to make it work, because that's what each and every one of us bring unique to a project or to a business or to a career. And I feel like that's been a big part of my success, stepping into my authentic self, because I feel like my people will find me, and I feel like the people that identify with me, even in this business, have seen that. And that's very, I feel like that's more magnetic and it's more authentic. And I even see it in social media. Like people tell me, oh my God, I feel like I know you. I watch your keystones in the kitchen. I feel like you talk and you'll mess up and you don't care. Like you just throw it on there. And I'm like, yeah, because it's like, it's real. It's what you're seeing. It's real life, real time, but yeah, that's something that I realized, and that's a perspective shift that I had from when I started my career until to now, and it's stepping more and more into that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you,
Teaching.
and I love that about you because you met me through a business venture, and through my business life and in my sales background, I had to fail a million times before I succeeded once. So seeing a story like yours where you were massively successful already in the business world, and then you decided, you know what, I'm going to chase this dream. This is what I want to do. And it doesn't matter if people say I should have done this earlier, if it's too late or whatever, I'm going to do it anyway. Go out and audition for 700 different roles and land 3 major TV shows. Like that says more about you than I think. Like it speaks volumes to your character, to who you are as a person, to what you're about. I just I admire that, and it's so inspiring to go out there and shift to a totally different industry that you've never been a part of, or do something totally different and succeed in spite of that massive amount of effort and the massive amount of pushback that you get back. That's what my life is about. The more I almost feel like the more pushback I get, the more the harder I should push back. Like it's weird. I'm just my brain is wired that way. The more obstacles I encounter, the more challenging the path gets to a goal. It's almost like that's a sign that this is the path I should be on, because these obstacles are going to make me stronger. They're going to make me better. They're going to make me smarter. And my brain has just been wired this way after so many years of just encountering these kinds of paths. And like I said, it's why I find you so inspiring and I admire you so much, because not only are you doing it and you're doing it big, you're doing it in spite of the million obstacles you have, just like everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's I'm another story in this world, and I haven't done everything I want to do. And there's a lot of people that I see that I admire professionally and personally. And I mean, it's part of the journey, I guess.
Well, listen, I know
You
you.
caught me at a weird time in my life. Nelson, it's it's a lot of changes for me now.
Hey,
So
change is good. Change usually as humans
yeah,
we resist change. Change is inevitable though. At the end of the day, we can't resist change. Change comes whether we
absolutely.
want to or not. We get older, right? Well, that's change within itself.
Hmm.
The seasons change without our whether we want it to or not. Summer, winter, fall, spring. Change is gonna
There's big changes. There's life changes, and then there's
change makes us
let's
better.
see.
Trust me. It just means you're evolve. It's time to evolve as a person. That's what I believe.
Absolutely.
When things are forced upon you, when these changes come to you abruptly, it's probably because life is trying to tell you you've become too comfortable, and it's time for a change. Sometimes we don't want to change because we like how our life is going and we like the things that are going on. Sometimes maybe it's not up to us, unfortunately. And the difference between the people that succeed and the people that don't are the people who are willing to adapt it to the change. One of my favorite books, I don't know if you've ever read it, it's the 48 Laws of Power. The last law is be formless, right? So there, those two words,
Flow like water.
yeah, it's very, Bruce Lee, like Bruce Lee esque,
Absolutely.
because water at the end of the day, if it flows into a rock and it freezes, it can split the rock, But if you pour it into a teacup, you can drink it. So it just assumes the form of whatever circumstances it's in, and if we learn not to be so rigid, I think life just. I've learned that life isn't so much a fight or a war. I used to see life as this struggle. Life is more like a river, and if you learn to flow with this river, life is gonna go really well. But if you want to struggle against it, you're gonna die of exhaustion. You know what I mean? So just life has been around a long time, and if you learn to flow with it, things will go in your favor.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree.
I love it.
You know.
So speaking about ketones in the kitchen and everything you do, I love ketones in the kitchen is like my morning newspaper. There's a small group of people on social media that every morning I go through their stories. It's like you and like two other or three other friends of mine, bro. The picking out the outfits is awesome. I love it. You're like, bro, how do I look? And I'm like, bro, Arlene needs to. I need to hire this lady as like a fashion consultant to pick out all my outfits because she's like, no, she can do no wrong. She picks out anything out of that closet and it's like, boom, here you go.
Oh my gosh. That's the biggest struggle I'm having now because I'm looking for a place to move, right? And I have a dressing room. And for me, the most important room in my house is my dressing room. And I feel that I'm like, every place I go to, I'm like, this isn't going to cut it. I had to build this house to make a dressing room. I'm like, that's the biggest struggle I'm having right now, honestly, with my move. And I love it. I love to it's therapeutic for me
Mm.
to put outfits together, to coordinate them. To I don't know, I enjoy it so much. It's a ritual. Like when I'm gonna go out, it's not even about just driving to the place and going out. It's all right. My makeup, my hair, the music I'm playing, just the vibe. And then when I finish getting dressed, I do like the little video, and I don't know, it's like a little like get ready with me kind of vibe, and I enjoy it so much. So thank you so much for appreciating that. And yeah.
You're welcome. You got to have your own show, man.
I feel like at some point I'm like, I think I need to do like a strong collab. And I've already had like different people offer me collabs to do, or even start my own fashion, like kind of line,
Yeah,
daughter did some fashion class in high school, and she made that shirt that I wore for an interview the other day, and it was pretty cool.
that's awesome. You should start a fashion podcast. There's not many of those.
A fashion
Seriously, yeah, yeah.
podcast.
And you're the person to do it because let me tell you, you have there. It's one thing to buy nice clothing or buy expensive clothing. It's another thing to have style, right? You can't buy style. You're born with style. You're born with taste. That's something. My grandfather, God rest his soul, he used to wear like a green shirt with like red pants, and it was bro. It was like, guy, what are you doing? But that was part of him. When you're now, my other grandfather, my mother's father, was he would always be wearing a suit, and he would know how to he'd have the combination of the tie with the pocket square, and then he'd have the handkerchief. Like it was woof.
You know how to put it together.
Yeah,
You know how to put it together.
he taught me how to dress. So that's why when I wear my suits and I wear my stuff, I know how to tie a tie, and I know how to I know how to do the little things. So by the way, this new thing about guys wearing suits without belts, that like that pit bull look, is terrible. I can't stand it. It looks super weird. I wear belts.
So you're a suit and tie. Suit and tie guy.
Yeah, I'm a suit and tie guy. I wear my belt with my dress shoes, and that whole no belt thing is like, bro, how do your pants not fall off? That looks weird. But yeah, he taught me how to dress, and yeah, styles. You're born with style. You can't learn style. No matter what fashion school you go
Yeah,
to or whatever, and you have style,
I agree.
mad style for sure.
Thank you.
What so was that always something you kind of liked? And obviously that's been a big help. I'm assuming in the acting gig, right? Like being into fashion and style and stuff like that. How have you incorporated
Oh,
that?
I always loved it. I've always loved to like go shopping and put outfits together and to color coordinate. Even when I was building my home and I was furnishing it and whatnot, like picking the color schemes and like the textures and the textiles and all that. Like I enjoy that because I feel like it's there like there's so much harmony and it's almost
Mm,
energy. Like there was this laundry bag that it says, and it was Mark Twain that says, "Your clothes introduce you even before you walk into a
mm,
room." No, it said something like I forgot exactly how it started, but it's something to the effect of like the clothes introduces the man. Naked people have little or no influence in
mm,
society. And it was Mark Twain. I love that laundry bag, but it's true. Like how you present yourself, the way that you style yourself, the way you walk into a room, that whole thing. That's all. I feel like it's something that it speaks
mm.
volumes. You don't even have to talk. You see it and you're like, oh, like you get the vibe. So I've always loved that. I've always loved that. Every time I would see someone well dressed and not even like elegant, like it could be a casual look, it could be any type of look, and I'm just like, wow, it's impressive. That impresses me because I'm just like, okay, they're very well put together, you know?
I think that's something that's lacking nowadays. We've bought into nowadays things are a little more casual, and you have a younger generation, so a different mentality. And I get it. Things change. Like I said, I'm not a dinosaur. I adapt with the times, but I also think there's a lack of awareness, like of people that there's a time and a place for everything, and there's a time and a place where you need to dress well. There's a time and a place where you don't have to dress well. I'm more in the middle, kind of stay ready, don't have to get ready. That's kind of who I am. I'm not a big fan of just whatevering it. If that, I'm gonna copyright that whatevering it. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt.
Whatever it.
Because that's really common nowadays. No one cares, and I've seen people show up to job interviews looking like they were going to hang out with a friend and like go eat something, go eat lunch. Like, what is that? Back at least when I used to get job interviews.
Well, you know what? It depends what kind of job of an interview it is because let me tell you, back in the day when you have your conventional jobs, when you have like doctor, whatever it
Mm,
is, nurse, we need those people in society. But I feel like now with the technology and the way that we've been moving in that direction we've been moving, um, a job interview doesn't necessarily have to be suit and tie. And what I love is the versatility of being able to say, okay, well, I love to change my looks. So you'll see me sometimes in like a certain outfit, and I'm an artist, but I'm also a businesswoman. So I love to change my looks in the sense like you'll see me sometimes in a business outfit, or you'll see me sometimes in a very sexy dress, or sometimes you'll see me in a dress that is not as sexy and it's a little bit more traditional, a little bit more classic. I try, even if I dress a little bit more, provocative, I always make an attempt. I'm very intentional about making it classy. And I also feel like maybe it's a little ratchet, maybe it's a little ghetto, maybe it's a little bit of everything. Like have that versatility, have that like sauce, that spice where it's like, don't make it boring. Why do we have to be this way? No, like wear the dress, make this like racy thing a little bit more conservative, but just I don't know. For me, it's like like you said, style.
mm.
So a friend of mine, I wore this thing the other day, and it was like this Cuban link chain with like this
I saw it.
bikini and this cover up, and I put on. And she's like, my friend, she's like, I feel like you're able to pull this off, but if I wore that, it would look so weird.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm like, no, I mean, it's just, that's what I'm saying. It's like just wear it. Like, I don't know, like I put it together and it's like, put it together. Does it feel right? Do you feel good in it? Then wear it. And it's all about the energy of how I
Mm.
feel in an outfit. Sometimes I'll see somebody wear something or on a mannequin and I'll put it on and I'm like, oh my God, I look like un tamal amasrado, very Cuban or whatever. Or I look like whatever. That does not work. Like I wore a bathing suit today, right? With my daughter. We went to the pool and it was very 50s, It was from the We Wore What brand. And it's very 50s. It has, whatever, like higher waist, whatever. And I was just like, I liked it. It wasn't as flattering to my physique. But since I've lost about 15 pounds, I'm like, okay, whatever. We can pull this off. Is it my favorite? No, but I loved the change,
Mm.
like the style, the difference, let's wear it this way, let's wear it that way. So
It definitely start a fashion. Get into fashion consulting somehow. I'm telling you, you're gonna make a lot of money, and you're gonna remember me. You're gonna one day
yeah,
we're gonna bump into each other at Starbucks and be like, "Oh, yo necesito, bro. You were right. It's going well." No, but seriously,
oh, but
it's and you look like it's like you said when a person dresses well, you give off a vibe, you give off a swagger. You know what I mean? You just have that confidence when you look good. It's such an important part of you. You know your appearance, not for how other people see you, more for like how you feel about yourself. You know, it's super
absolutely,
super important.
absolutely.
Definitely, definitely. So another interesting topic I wanted to talk to you about. So you went to film in Australia in the middle of lockdown, right?
Yes, in the middle of
So
pandemic.
tell me about that because that must have been crazy.
Oh my gosh. I remember when I booked the gig, we were in the middle of the pandemic. I actually had COVID when I booked Young Rock. And my agent called me and I had a feeling. I was just like, I have to talk to you, whatever. She's like, you booked, Young Rock. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, Lisa, I have COVID. I'm in my bed. And I was like 104 fever. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go over there in the middle of this pandemic. And so she's like, well, think about it. And then like, I really wanted to take the job, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is like 10,000 miles away, different time zone. I'm gonna have to be away from my family for X amount of time, whatever. Took the plunge, went over there. And one of the biggest challenges was they were like, all right, you got to quarantine in a hotel room. You cannot leave this hotel room for 2 weeks.
That's crazy.
So at first I was like, oh my gosh, like, whatever. And I was like, okay, well, I have to cross this river in order to get to the other side and shoot the show because I've worked this hard. So now I finally booked the show, story of Dwayne Johnson's life. I'm playing Danny Garcia, which is like a pioneer in her own right. For me, it's an honor to play a Cuban, bring to life a Cuban, not even Cuban, a woman who has done so much. She's also happens to be Cuban, also happens to be from Miami, has all these different things you know, that I felt I identified with her. And but on the same token, it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, I have this wonderful opportunity. I have to do this. So I was like, all right. Took my Apple TV. I told production, I'm like, send an elliptical to my room. If you go into my Instagram and you see like the little highlights, I have little highlights. It says like, or Australia. So you're able to see like I had a production send me like a grill and I would make pancakes and I would do my ketones in the hotel room or ketones in quarantine. I'm not even sure how I even named it there. That was something that I made up. And so it was funny because I had like this military schedule where I said, okay, I wake up in the morning. I'll brush my teeth, put my outfit on, my gym outfit. I do my ketones in the hotel room. I do a workout in that same hotel room. Mind you, this hotel had two windows, none of them open, no balcony.
Bro.
So I would have to lay behind the bedpost on the windowsill that had like that space so I can get the heat that would hit the glass, that then the glass would hit my body so I can feel the heat and get like that vitamin D. And it was like that. And it was I was going to bed like at 5:30 at night. It was definitely an experience. I had a lot of time for myself, with myself, by myself, and nothing. When I finished the quarantine, I remember they said, "Do you want to leave tonight at 1 in the morning, or you want to leave in the morning?" I'm like, "I'm leaving tonight." Have them pick me up. They were transferring us from Brisbane to Queensland because we shot in Queensland season 2. We shot at Village Roadshow Studios where they shot Aquaman
Mm.
and a lot of other films. Yeah, so I left that same night. I think it was October. I want to say it was October 3rd. October 3rd.
Of 2020.
And of 2021. So I did that. Season 2 was 2021 to 2022, and then season 3 was 2022 to 2023. We shot season 3. We wrapped it like February of 2023. Yeah. And so yeah, but that was in Tennessee. That wasn't in Queensland. That wasn't in Australia. But Australia was definitely the catalyst for this portion or this part of my life on both a professional and personal level. And I feel it was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had in my life. And I learned so much. I met so many people. I lived in a completely different time zone. I was away from my family. I was fully immersed in that culture. And I remember I used to listen to podcasts about it where it said, well, you want the fastest way to learn a new language or a new full immersion. You're talking about 6 months, 9 months, full immersion. You want to, fully immerse yourself, let's say in, I don't know, any other culture that has a completely different language. And that's the quickest way you're going to learn. So yeah, but it was definitely a wonderful experience at the Sydney Harbor Bridge, the Opera House. I mean, I came back for Christmas. I went back in January of 2022, had to quarantine again, but I didn't have to be in the hotel room. It was the weirdest thing. I was able to quarantine in Sydney, Australia this time instead of Brisbane, Sydney for 2 weeks, but I was able to be out and about, go to the gym, sightsee, go have lunch, take walks. I had the most incredible time. I don't know. I love Australia. Australia was beautiful, so yeah.
That's sheer determination, man.
I used to
love it.
dream about going to Australia. I used to dream about going to Australia, actually. It's funny.
The dream came true.
I used to dream about it all the time. Yeah, no, I used to say it's one of the places I want to go. Like I was dying to go to Australia and see the Harbor Bridge and see like the Opera House and all that. And I was like, wow, I booked a show in Australia. And I remember when I did the audition, I remember telling my reader, Rez, he's a London-based actor, very talented, lives out in LA. And I was like, when I saw a location one in the breakdown, I was like, yeah, Rez, Brisbane, Australia.
That's awesome, man.
I was like, whatever.
I love it. That's
a couple months down the line, my agent's like, you booked the show, and I was like, okay.
That speaks to your character again. You know what I mean? Like you were like, I don't care that I'm quarantining. I don't care that I have to deal with this. I'm gonna get my workout in. I'm gonna read my books. I'm gonna keep listening to this podcast. I'm gonna go over my stuff, and I'm gonna make this happen. And things are gonna go well. And I'm gonna stay disciplined. And discipline is such a tricky thing because in that space where COVID and all that stuff and the pandemic or whatever, a lot of people were like, oh, whatever, it is what it is. I'm stuck home. I can't do anything, this and that. Yet the person who took on the attitude that you did was like, no, I don't care what's going on. I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen. I know so many people who opened businesses, started new careers, lost a lot of weight, went on and took on something really hard and went out and made it happen because they said, no, you know what? So, like perspective. Some people were like, oh, I can't do anything. This ruined everything. And other people like you were thinking, no way, I'm going to do it anyway. This is irrelevant. I'm going to keep doing me. And guess what? The people who decided to do that are in a whole different avenue of life right now because they stuck through that weird time or whatever. And now those people who decided to do something else or veer off the path, where are they now? Where could they have been if they stuck to that path now? So I
definitely agree with you. I feel like discipline will pull you through the mud when motivation falters. Yes. and it wavers and it wavers. Like there's days you wake up and you're just like, I'm gonna eat the world and do all this stuff and whatever, and I'm gonna kick ass and I'm gonna go to the gym and there's days you wake up and you're like, I don't even want to get out of my bed. Like what's the point of my existence? What am I doing? Discipline will say, you're going to put your foot in the ground, one foot after the other. You're going to brush your teeth. You're going to get dressed. You're going to go work out. And that momentum, even if it's slow, it'll put you through, it'll push you through the motions. And it's like, take care and do what you can control. control the controllables. The uncontrollables, you can't control them. And it's I know it's easier said than done, because man, life can get really
Mm.
hard. And I feel like I'm in that phase of life is hard. Like that's like story of my life. I know it sounds very cliche. Story of my life right now. Life is hard. It is, because it's hard. Like it's hard. Like a lot of days I'm like, what am I doing? What is this? Like what's next? Like I don't see the end of this hard. Like I said, it's a very big change. This is a very big transition for me. There's a lot of things that are changing right now. My home, my family life, my relationship, my career. There's a strike. There's so many things that are just
Mm.
like there's a hurricane and a tornado and like an earthquake, and there's all these things happening now, and it's like, all right, what control the controllables? What can I control? I can go work out. I know that no matter what happens, rain, shine, whatever it is, if I look good, if I feel good, doesn't matter. That's always a controllable. Like if you look good and you feel good, doesn't matter for nothing. Like personal, business, whatever it is, that's always going to be a plus. Okay. Are you eating right? Are you, eating right in the sense is not just physical, it's emotional. If you eat well, you're going to feel better.
Mm.
So those things are like key. Then aside from that is like, okay, mental health, what are we listening to? What are so a lot of that I feel is very important, and we take it for granted, and we just wake up and we're very, like you said, we don't have a lot of we as in the
The
world,
world.
like including myself. I'm speaking for myself. There's not a lot of self-awareness sometimes, and it's like, all right, is that intentional? Was I intentional about this meeting? Was I intentional about this
Mm.
conversation going here? So I totally agree with you. I think that discipline will get you a lot farther than any other characteristic, or you know and any other thing.
Your feelings will betray
Just
you.
motivation.
That's, uh,
Hmm.
I have yet to, and I'm sure anybody watching or listening can relate to this. Throughout my entire life, 80 to 90% of the time, I don't feel like doing anything. I do not feel like getting up. I don't feel like going to work out. I don't feel like eating my meals that I need to eat. I don't feel like going over my last podcast and taking notes. I don't feel like going into the studio and recording another episode. I don't feel like writing to get my second book. I don't feel like doing these things. These things are difficult and they're tedious. And unfortunately, it's what it takes to be great. People, this overnight success stuff is so overrated. Like I'm over it, because no one is an overnight success. They want to talk about the one success they had, and they don't want to talk about the 10 or 15 years that happened before that of them practicing and day in and day out and doing the same thing over and over and over again until they became a master of their craft. It's discipline. Mike Tyson has such a great quote. He says, "Discipline is doing what you hate doing, but doing it like you love it." And there's being disciplined in your craft, even though it might be your passion. There's always moments. It's not even the actual action of doing it. It's always the outside circumstances that are happening. Like in your case, in your personal life, recently my grandfather passed away, and anybody who knows, my grandfather was my best friend. He was the person I used to call whenever you're having a horrible day, and one of those people, he would just put a smile on your face immediately. He would say one of those cubanazo jokes and just make you laugh and just make your day. And I haven't been able to do that in a long time, and it sucks. But at the end of the day, what am I gonna do? That's life. He's in a better place. Do I have such an ego that I'm gonna tell life that no, you shouldn't have taken him away from me? Am I that arrogant that I'm trying to tell the world or the universe or whatever, however life works, how things should be? No, things happen the way they did. It was meant to be that way. And there's a lesson to learn from that. And I need to move on. Your feelings will always find a way to betray you. And I always try to keep that present. Don't focus on feelings. Focus on where you want to be. It's not about where you are. It's about where you're going. And as long as you're focusing on the end result and you're not focusing on present circumstances, you're going to get there by default.
Yeah. But you know what? It's kind of like I stopped focusing on the outcome as much as, like I said, the
Mm,
journey. Yeah, this is what I want to get, but how adaptable am I to
change. Yep.
change? Because we suffer because of change, because the ego wants to be
Of course.
comfortable,
Of course.
right? So we get change, we get things happening. No, you thought you were going to do this, you thought you were going to be here, but this is really what's going to happen. And so now you're like, no, my plan's not working out. This is how I wanted it to
Mm.
happen. I wanted to go from A to B to C. No, sometimes you got to go from A, E, come
Yep.
back, go back, go back. So it's like that whole thing. Definitely, it's. I'm learning a lot now.
That's life.
I'm having a lot of life lessons.
Life is the never-ending process of figuring it out. That's
Yes, exactly,
that's what that's what
exactly,
life is. And
exactly.
as long as you don't give in and you just realize like we know nothing, like no matter how much we know, we really don't know anything. There's always something to
No,
learn from everyone. Very very important
and
lesson.
we,
I'm
yeah,
remembering a story of Socrates a long time ago. The Oracle of Delphi said that Socrates was the wisest man in the world, and he was determined to disprove this lady because he was like, "There's no way I'm the wisest man in the world. There's people who are way wiser than me." And he spoke to scientists and politicians and philosophers and all these super smart people. And after a few months, he realized that he was the smartest man or the wisest man in the world. Why was he the wisest man in the world? Because he realized he knew nothing, and no one else was able to admit that they knew nothing. They all thought they had the answers, and he always understood that no, you'll never have the answers. And as long as you keep an open mind and you're open to learning new ways of doing things, you'll never stop learning, and you'll always keep growing. But if you think you have the answers, and if you think you know it all, if you think you've arrived, you'll stop growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying, unfortunately.
okay. Absolutely.
If you're not going one
And
way, you're going the other.
I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about quantum physics and how we live on a plane where things happen and don't happen at the same
Mm.
time. And it's really confusing. Let's not get into that whole thing, but I thought it was really interesting. No, no, no. The explanation was pretty intense, but I mean, I enjoy that just because I'm heady with those things sometimes. Like when I read about those things or when I listen to them, I'm like, okay, it's a lot. But but what I'm saying with this is that I totally agree with that. Solo sé que no sé nada.
Mm.
And all I know is that I know nothing, which is Socrates, and being open to that, being open to understanding, okay, well, maybe this person has a lot more to offer, because they know more about this or have lived more, and there's something that I can learn, even from kids.
100%.
So I agree with you.
What I love about kids is they're
Having a nice energy, a nice
yes,
attitude, a yes to
yes,
life, you know, um, for me, I feel like that's the most important thing because we can figure it out,
mm,
whatever it is. But if we have a connection, if we get along, if we can laugh about things, if we can figure things out
mm.
together, and there's that connection, that's so important. It doesn't matter what you do, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's work, having that attitude of, yes, it's like you want to be around that type of energy, and you can figure everything out. Everything else is figure outable,
Ev-
you know?
Everything is figure outable. I love that.
I feel like I'm like everything is figure outable.
I love it because it is.
Yeah,
A problem in its very nature has a solution. That's why it's a problem, or else it wouldn't exist.
exactly.
Super important. So, do you?
Yeah,
All right. So before I ask you the next question, do you want me to call you Arlene or Arlyn?
it's Arlen.
It's Arlyn.
Arlen, darling. So it's Arlen because look, I used in Spanish es
Uh
Arlene.
huh.
Si me vas a hablar en español es Arlene. Si me vas a hablar en inglés es Harlan. Why? Because the word or the portion of my name that's Lyn is not pronounced correctly in English. Lean. It's Lynn. Lynn is Lynn. And I really like the Arlen. Si me vas a hablar en español, me dices Arlene.
All right. So,
Pero en inglés es
so we're speaking English, so I'll call you Arlyn.
Arlen,
Arlyn. Got it.
darling. Arlen like Arlen. Yes.
So Arlyn.
I have a friend that calls me Arlen.
So I thought I was under the influence that this was just a passion of yours and you went after acting because it's what you really liked. But then I found out that your father was actually a very prominent actor a long time ago in Cuba. And I remember you telling me
Yes.
something along the lines of that he was kind of like the Brad Pitt of Cuba, something like that. Now,
Right. So if you were to compare him
yeah,
to an actor in Hollywood, yeah, like Brad Pitt in success.
that's awesome.
He's very
What
successful
so
in
what
Cuba.
era is this pre Fidel Cuba?
19, No, 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 no. It was from 1970 to 1980.
Okay.
It's during the Castro regime. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Does he tell you stories about how what it was like to make movies in that era?
He used to. He's not. He didn't pass away, but he has
Mm,
Parkinson's. He's had Parkinson's for a good, 13 years, and he's bedbound, and so he really can't, put a conversation
right.
together. But he used to talk to me all the time. He used to give me a lot of advice. I can still hear his voice and the things that he would talk to me about, and he would, really just tell me so many things ever since I was little. And yeah, my father is a huge source of inspiration for me. He looked like a Jersey boy back in the day. Like that's what his headshots looked like, a Jersey boy. He was
Yeah, like the knit sweater
I
and
actually have.
the slick back hair.
Oh my gosh, yes. And he dressed a G, like a G, honestly. Like my dad was such a classy, he's still alive again, but he's sick, but he was such a classy guy, like so well spoken, charismatic, a storyteller. Actors are. We are all storytellers, but artists, I feel, are, singers, actors, whatever. He was such a talented storyteller. Like the way he would, like, say a story, you just sit there and just look at him and just, I remember I would just stare at him sometimes, just listening to him either say a joke or talk about a story or say things. And I feel like that was a lot of the talent and the natural things that I had came from watching my dad, came from that thing, ever since I was little. And so yeah,
It's super special. I love
that
it.
was huge for me.
Yeah, for me, recently I saw on somebody's page, somebody managed to get some black and white footage from Havana in 1958, and they made it in color. They converted it. I'll see if I can find it and
Hmm.
I can send it to you. And seeing that,
Okay.
like anything old before I was born, it really fascinates me to see what the world was like and how much it's changed and what used to exist back then and what doesn't exist now and how people felt about something back then and what people felt about it now. It's it's cycles of time and generations and seeing things change throughout the world is always really cool for me. That's why I'm such a history. I love history. I love learning about people who did big things in throughout society and what their motivation was and what influenced them to do this and why they did that. So yeah, that's cool to hear about your father. That's really cool. It must have been hard for him to come.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was that big an actor, I mean, obviously that's the
He had to leave. When they left on the Mariel, he had to leave with like a cloak on because everybody recognized him when he left his house, with my mom and my brother and my sister. Again, I wasn't born yet. I was born here in the US. They were throwing
wow.
eggs, they were throwing potatoes, they were like hitting the car because they were like, traitor,
Mm.
traitor, because he was such a, a figure in the public eye. They were like, we can't believe you're leaving us. And so he left, the Castro regime to provide a better life for my mom and my sister and my brother, to an unknown, land.
Mm.
And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that he did that, because I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't have had my beautiful
Mm.
children. I mean, so it would definitely been a different story. But both my parents, my mom and my dad, have been a huge source of inspiration for me. Yeah.
I'm with it. Yeah.
My mom is a nurse, but she's always been incredibly supportive.
I'm I can relate. I grew up with a lot of extended family on both my sides. But I grew up with all my
Oh,
grandparents,
yeah.
all my grandparents' siblings, and my great grandmother. So for me, growing up with all them and then telling me about how Cuba used to be in the 50s and how they grew up and what it was like, and I love that you. I have the same love of stories as you. That's why I'm a writer, and that's why I have the podcast. I love listening to people's stories.
Congrats on your book, by the
Thank you,
way.
thank you. I need to give you a copy. I'll give you a signed copy.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm fascinated with the story of how somebody got to where they got to, what motivated them, what inspires them, what makes them different, what makes them want to chase these things in life. You know what I mean? It's so humans. That side of humanity is so engaging to me. going back to my grandfather, I could sit with him the whole day and just hear these stories of when he was a kid and he used to work at, he was a bus driver when he was young in Cuba, and hear these old stories of him messing with my great grandmother and just like playing these pranks and just he was like the prankster in the family. Um, yeah, and storytelling is so special. It's whether it's just sitting down and having a conversation with somebody, whether it's a podcast, whether it's watching film. That's why I love what you do. Film is so inspiring to me. Oh, TV shows and film, and I aspire to be a writer myself. I'm in the middle of writing a comic book that I hope to turn into.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I hope to turn it into a TV show one day, which is actually what I'm doing with all this. It's just through my writing and through my podcast. It's to bring me to the world, and a big part of me is my culture. So when I have the script done and everything, hopefully, I'd love to show it to you. Maybe.
Look, so I have a picture of my dad actually in. I don't know if you can
Wow,
see it.
super cool.
This is he's. This is on a TV show, right? Look at him there.
Look at that.
See?
Super cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's like 70 something.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly when, but 1970. And look, this is him and another one.
Super awesome.
That's him.
Black and white.
Yeah. And then this is him after being in the United States after the Mariel. This is my grandfather's, my mom's dad, and that's me, the
Ah,
baby.
baby Arlyn. Super cool. Oh man.
So yeah,
Yeah, stories, man.
it's pretty.
It's so inspiring, and that's what I hope to do through my writing and through everything I do. Tell a story that inspires the world. Write the greatest story ever told.
Cool.
You know.
You know what? You know what is awesome, and I feel like I had this realization not recently, but I realized it, and I was like, wow. Like even social
Mm,
media, right? It's everything is about perspective. We can look at social media a certain way and say, oh, I don't want to. No, each page, each person, each user, each handle is a channel,
mm,
a story. Okay. And how you're each and every one of us are influencers. We're all storytellers. It's a different channel. You go into my page and you're going to see like I'm a mom and I love to cook and I'm an actress and I'm a businesswoman and I love to wear fashion stuff and I make these videos and I love to it's like every person is a
mm,
storyteller, and being able to embrace every part of your story of your life and whatever it is interesting to the right person. And I feel like taking that approach, even with social media, like you with your book, with, your ideas, your podcast, your experiences, your stuff, that's a story. Those are stories. And as we live, it's all about stories. Like you remember back in the day, I'm like, you remember back in the day, like you were alive back in the day. But when the people would sit around like fire, when there wasn't like AC and there wasn't, it was cold and they had to do fires and whatnot, they would share stories, and it's all about that. And so social media took technology to another level where we could see stories about
mm,
anywhere in the world, anyone anywhere in the world. But it's having that willingness to share your story, whatever it is. My experience, like I wouldn't have been able to have documented all of that and shared that on social media in
mm,
Australia when I was quarantining in a room. People wouldn't have been able to see me do like pancakes on a regular grill and talk about how like I'm quarantining and have my like military schedule and my experiences in Sydney and Cubana from Miami that you never even thought. So all those stories are, so that I feel like that's beautiful. Like we can all do that through social media. We don't have to do it like on a TV show. We don't have to do it in a movie. We don't have to do it. I don't know. I thought that was really cool and interesting. And I really appreciated social media because of that. And I felt like listening to you talk about that, just it kind of, I feel like that would inspire anyone to start sharing their
mm.
stories, you know?
I'm with you. If it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't have this platform, and I wouldn't be able to invite you, and we wouldn't. So that's a really, really cool perspective. I love it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Arlene, thank you so much for coming. Again, I appreciate you so
Thank
much.
you.
So I always wrap up my show asking three simple questions. So question number one, what inspires Arlyn Broche?
um, what inspires me? Uh, being able to make a positive impact in the world and be a better person for humanity as far as like, anything, sharing a story, entertaining, helping, even in the smallest way. That's inspirational to me.
I recently, well, not recently, it was a while back, but I remember seeing something where it said, you only suffer when you make it about you. Your suffering ends immediately when you make it about other people. So I feel you. Whenever I've gone through something in life and I've decided to change the perspective from, oh my God, my life, this is terrible, to, all right, I don't want this to happen to other people, or how do I help other people feel better about life? It's like clean slate in the brain, and what you're able to put out into the world is big. I'm a big proponent of whatever you put out is what you get back. You get it back tenfold. So
Mhm.
I'm with it.
Mhm.
I love it for sure.
Karmic karma.
It's big. So question number 2, what's next for Arlyn?
What's next for Arlyn? I don't know. I don't know. Watch my social media. No, I mean, look, there's a writer's strike right now. I'm in the process of, moving. I have so many things happening, honestly, but at the same time, it's like I'm not trying to micromanage it and control
Mm,
everything. I'm taking it one day at a time. Of course, with a plan for the future, but open to change.
mm.
That's the biggest thing for me right now.
You know what's interesting about you? In spite of the amount of success you've had, you still acknowledge the fact that the future is uncertain. I love that. That's cool.
Super.
But in a year or 2 or 3, when you're on an even bigger project than anything you've ever done, I'm gonna buy you coffee and and tell you that I told you so. All right. So
Okay.
if you did it once, you could do it again. Of course. Right.
Hmm.
Definitely. So question number 3: how does Arlyn want to be remembered?
Uh, I want to be remembered as someone who brought joy into the world and loved really hard and tried, made every attempt to be a good person in this world.
I love it.
And that's it. Simple.
The world has enough people who make it very difficult. So the people who try to bring joy to the world, forget happiness, right? Because happiness is like ever fleeting. You'll never have happiness. What's happiness, right? But joy
Joy.
is different. You know, joy is a choice.
I'm like, sometimes I'm like my friend's like, you have, and she's like, you have this gift, Arlen. Your energy is different. You have this gift when you could be going through a tough situation, and it's like you just bring light into the room, like you bring like a good vibe. And I tell her, I'm like, it's just like, I don't know, like sometimes it's I guess it's a gift. I guess it's a gift that I have,
Mm.
given, like we're all sprinkled with a gift, all of us. And so I guess my gift is like, I'm like, my house could be on fire, I could be bleeding out, but I'm like, it's okay, everybody. Everything's gonna be okay. Having that, I think is so important because, man, there's a lot of people out there that are just not like that,
Yeah,
and it's hard.
yeah. I, I can relate. The world could be falling apart, and I could just tell everybody, "Listen, guys, we'll figure it out. Yo, it's cool. We're good. We're
I'll
good.
figure it
We're
out.
good. We're good.
What do you
We're
mean?
good.
Your car is in the middle of the ocean. It's
We're
okay.
good. We're good. It's all right."
Okay. It's the car.
Oh my god,
You've lost everything. It's okay. That's how material stuff. It's okay.
it's all right.
What are you gonna eat
I'll get it
today?
all back.
I don't know. Tomate tajada aire con boca de viento. We'll figure it out.
Arlene, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate your time. So, last thing before we go, how can people connect with you?
Arlyn Broche on all social media
Arlene
platforms.
Broche. Arlene Broche. Okay? No, I'm kidding.
Arlyn Broche, ARLYN BROCHE,
Awesome.
and everywhere.
Thank you again for coming. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Nelson.
Alrighty,
It
guys.
was nice to see you.
That was another episode of Montana Method Podcast with your host, Nelson. As always, same message every time. Push it to the limit. The world is yours. And never, ever, ever forget, if you're not chasing a dream, life is meaningless, my friends. Until the next one.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.